August 7, 1942, the world witnessed a pivotal moment in the Pacific theater of World War II. The Battle of Guadalcanal marked the first major offensive by Allied forces against the Japanese Empire, a campaign that would alter the trajectory of the Pacific War. In this video, we'll explore the brutal realities of the battle, the strategies that defined it, and how this critical engagement changed the course of the Pacific War. Guadalcanal, a small island in the Solomon Islands chain, might seem insignificant at first glance, but its strategic location made it a prime target for both the Allies and the Japanese. Situated between Australia and the US supply routes, whoever controlled Guadalcanal could potentially dominate the sea lanes of the South Pacific. For the Japanese, it was a crucial point to disrupt Allied supply and communication lines. For the Allies, it was essential to halt Japan's southward expansion and secure the lines of communication and supply to Australia and New Zealand. On the morning of August 7, 1942, the Allies launched Operation Watchtower, the first major offensive operation against the Japanese in the Pacific. Led by the United States Marines, over 11,000 troops landed on the shores of Guadalcanal, Tulagi, and Florida Island. The initial landings were met with minimal resistance, but this was just the calm before the storm. The real battle was about to begin, both on land and at sea. The Japanese were not going to give up Guadalcanal easily. They quickly regrouped and began launching fierce counterattacks, determined to regain control of the airfield the Allies were constructing, Henderson Field. The battle for Henderson Field became the focal point of the Guadalcanal campaign. This airfield, named after Major Lofton Henderson, a Marine aviator who was killed at the Battle of Midway, was strategically vital. Its capture and control were essential for both the Japanese and Allied forces, as it provided a critical base for air operations in the Pacific theater. Japanese forces launched relentless assaults, both from the land and the air. They were determined to recapture the airfield, which they had initially begun constructing before the Allies seized it. The Japanese utilized their superior numbers and launched coordinated attacks, including aerial bombardments and ground offensives, to overwhelm the Allied defenders. The Allies, however, held their ground, using every resource at their disposal to defend the airfield. American and Allied forces, including the US Marines and Army, worked tirelessly to fortify their positions. They set up defensive perimeters, utilized heavy artillery, and coordinated air support to repel the Japanese attacks. The airfield's defense became a symbol of Allied resilience and determination. The combat was brutal, with hand-to-hand fighting in the dense jungle, artillery barrages, and night raids. The thick jungle terrain added to the chaos, making visibility poor and movement difficult. Soldiers on both sides faced not only the enemy, but also the harsh environment, with its oppressive heat, humidity, and disease-carrying insects. Nighttime brought its own horrors, as both sides launched surprise attacks under the cover of darkness. The Marines, often outnumbered and undersupplied, endured weeks of grueling conditions, but their determination never wavered. They faced shortages of food, ammunition, and medical supplies, yet they continued to fight with unwavering courage. Their ability to adapt to the harsh conditions and maintain their fighting spirit was a testament to their training and resolve. One of the most significant confrontations occurred at Bloody Ridge, also known as Edson's Ridge, where the Marines, led by Lieutenant Colonel Merritt A. Edson, repelled a major Japanese attack in September 1942. This battle was a turning point, as the Marines, despite being heavily outnumbered, managed to hold their ground and inflict severe casualties on the Japanese forces. Edson's leadership and the bravery of his men were instrumental in this hard-fought victory. This victory was crucial in securing Henderson Field and marked a turning point in the ground war on Guadalcanal. The successful defense of the airfield allowed the Allies to maintain air superiority in the region, which was vital for subsequent operations. It boosted the morale of Allied forces and demonstrated that the Japanese advance could be halted. The battle for Henderson Field remains a testament to the bravery and tenacity of the soldiers who fought there, and it played a pivotal role in the eventual Allied victory in the Pacific. The battle for Guadalcanal wasn't confined to the island itself. The surrounding seas became a deadly battleground as well, with both the US Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy vying for control. The waters around Guadalcanal were strategic, and whoever controlled them could dictate the flow of reinforcements and supplies to the island. Several naval engagements, including the Battle of Savo Island and the naval Battle of Guadalcanal, saw both sides suffer heavy losses. These battles were characterized by intense artillery exchanges, torpedo attacks, and nighttime skirmishes that turned the seas into a cauldron of fire and steel. The Battle of Savo Island in particular was a devastating blow to the Allied forces, with 4 heavy cruisers sunk and over 1,000 lives lost. The naval Battle of Guadalcanal, on the other hand, was a turning point, with the Allies managing to inflict significant damage on the Japanese fleet, thereby gaining a crucial advantage. The US Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy fought for control of the waters, each side attempting to bring reinforcements and supplies to their troops on the island. The logistical challenges were immense, with both navies deploying convoys under constant threat of enemy attack. The ability to maintain supply lines was critical for sustaining the prolonged conflict on Guadalcanal. Air superiority was another critical factor. Control of the skies could tip the balance of power in favor of one side. The Allies, with their control of Henderson Field, had a significant advantage. This airfield allowed them to launch air raids against Japanese ships and positions, disrupting their operations and providing crucial support to ground forces. Control of Henderson Field allowed the Allies to launch air raids against Japanese ships and positions, disrupting their operations. The airfield became a hub of activity, with constant sorties being flown to attack enemy targets and defend against Japanese air assaults. The Japanese, in turn, launched their own air assaults, leading to fierce dogfights in the skies above Guadalcanal. These aerial battles were intense and deadly, with pilots on both sides demonstrating extraordinary bravery and skill. The skies over Guadalcanal were a constant battleground, with control shifting back and forth as each side sought to gain the upper hand. The battle for air and sea dominance was relentless, with neither side willing to concede an inch. The combined naval and air warfare created a dynamic and ever-changing battlefield, where the outcome of each engagement could have far-reaching consequences. The struggle for Guadalcanal was a testament to the strategic importance of air and sea power in modern warfare, and the determination of both sides to achieve victory at any cost. As the months wore on, the tide began to turn in favor of the Allies. The relentless efforts and sacrifices of the Allied forces were beginning to show results. The soldiers, who had been fighting in harsh and unforgiving conditions, were now seeing the fruits of their labor. The dense jungles and treacherous terrains that once seemed insurmountable were now being conquered step by the determined troops. The Japanese, stretched thin and suffering from supply shortages, could no longer sustain their offensive. Their initial momentum had waned, and the cracks in their strategy were becoming increasingly evident. The once formidable Japanese forces were now grappling with the harsh realities of war. Their supply lines were disrupted, and their resources were dwindling rapidly. The soldiers, who had once marched with confidence, were now retreating, their spirits dampened by the relentless pressure from the Allies. By early February 1943, the Japanese High Command made the difficult decision to withdraw from Guadalcanal. This decision was not made lightly, as it marked a significant turning point in the Pacific theater. The High Command, after much deliberation, recognized that continuing the fight would only lead to further losses. The withdrawal was a strategic move, aimed at preserving what remained of their forces for future battles. Ships were hastily prepared, and soldiers were ordered to leave the island, marking the end of a grueling campaign. The campaign had drained their resources and weakened their ability to defend other key territories in the Pacific. The once well-stocked supply depots were now empty, and the equipment that had once been in pristine condition was now damaged and worn out. The soldiers, too, were exhausted, their morale at an all-time low. The strain of the prolonged conflict had taken its toll, leaving the Japanese forces in a precarious position. The Allies, though battered and weary, had achieved a significant victory. The sense of accomplishment was palpable among the troops. They had endured countless hardships, but their perseverance had paid off. The sight of the American flag being raised on Guadalcanal was a powerful symbol of their triumph. The soldiers, who had fought so valiantly, could now take a moment to rest and celebrate their hard-won victory. Guadalcanal was secured, and with it, the momentum in the Pacific had shifted. This victory was more than just a tactical win. It was a morale booster for the Allied forces. The successful campaign demonstrated that the Japanese were not invincible, and that the Allies could indeed turn the tide of the war. The island, once a fierce battleground, was now firmly under Allied control, and the troops marched victoriously, their spirits lifted by the success. This victory paved the way for further Allied offensives that would eventually lead to the defeat of Japan. The strategic importance of Guadalcanal could not be overstated. It served as a launching pad for future operations, allowing the Allies to push forward with renewed vigor. The planning for the next offensive began almost immediately, with military strategists meticulously mapping out the next steps. The momentum gained from this victory would carry the Allies through many more battles, ultimately leading to the downfall of the Japanese Empire and the end of the war in the Pacific. The Battle of Guadalcanal was more than just a fight for a small island. It was a test of endurance, strategy, and determination. The sacrifices made by the soldiers who fought there helped change the course of World War II, ensuring that the Allies could gain a strategic foothold in the Pacific. Their legacy lives on in the history books and in the peace that followed. We owe them our gratitude, and we remember their courage. This is why Guadalcanal remains one of the most significant battles of World War II.